Oh boy, Isaiah Thomas is back in town. No, not that Isaiah Thomas.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, here we go, everybody. It's a Tuesday edition of the Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Matt Derry. I've been with you since 2016, hosting this Locked On Lions podcast where we bring you Lions content each and every day. Today is Tuesday, October 15th, into Wednesday, October 16th. Tomorrow, the legendary CBS and Westwood One NFL analyst, the proprietor of the hashtag on Twitter, Tuck Spreads, the great Ross Tucker, is going to join us. Ross tweeted out Sunday, the Lions are going to the Super Bowl. 2 plays later, Hutchinson's leg snaps in half. It's not your fault, Ross. We will commiserate with Mr. Tucker tomorrow, right here on this very program. And Thursday, the great Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings. Yes, let's do that crossover, shall we, on Thursday, as the Lions will head to Sam Darnoldville for Sunday's game at 1 o'clock against the Vikings. So thanks for making us your first listen, checking us out wherever you get your podcast. That includes subscribing for free and watching for free on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. Our everydayers that are out there that watch and listen daily, we appreciate you. Got a few everydayers I got to give a shout out to. First of all, over in overseas parts unknown on vacation, the great Craig Fellhandler and his girlfriend, Jen Cooper. Used to hang with Jen in my previous life many, many years ago, back there in the old Huntington Woods days. Jen's great people, but shout out to Craig and Jen. Hopefully the D. Hopefully they're having a good time overseas. Corey Wolfgang, shout out to you. My Cleveland Guardians brother, big Lions fan. Taylor Marzuka, legendary Edge Fitness trainer. Taylor, love you, girl. And also Todd Rudy, who hit us up on Twitter today. Some of our everydayers had to shout out today. Locked On Lions today is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL if you're looking for tickets for $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the Gametime app, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Coming up on the program today, yes, the Lions have a brand new pass rusher, and yes, his name is Isaiah Thomas. So make your corny Zeke jokes and your Pistons bad boy jokes all you want, but we will discuss Isaiah Thomas. Also, some more names are out there. Who can the Lions call about and maybe acquire to replace or at least try to replace Aiden Hutchinson? And this is not just about the Hutch injury and him being out for the year. They need to replace Marcus Davenport, Derek Barnes, and Aiden Hutchinson. You know, this, we'll be fine. Next man up, next man up, Diesel. No. I'm all for next man up for a few weeks, but by November 5th, they got to make a move. They've got to acquire somebody from the outside. We'll get into that coming up. All this talk about Hutchinson, and look, I'm guilty of it, but can we dive into what Ben Johnson did the last 2 weeks, please, and how good he is? We will do that later on in the program, and we have our call of the day from our SpeakPipe voicemail system. You want to be called today? Go to speakpipe.com/Derry, D-E-R-Y, podcast page, and leave a voicemail. And if it's clean and it's nice and it's fresh, we will play it right here on these airwaves. But follow us on Twitter, Derry Speaks, at Locked On Lions, and the Matt Derry Facebook fan page. All right, I'm 4 minutes in. Let me get to some content here. The newest addition for your Honolulu Blue and Silver Warriors as they get set to face the Vikings this Sunday. Yes, his name is Isaiah Thomas, a former 7th-round pick of the Cleveland Browns back in 2022 out of Oklahoma. Pretty good pass rusher in college, was all Big 12 and all that stuff. Spent the first 2 years of his career in 22 and 23 with the Browns. Played in 10 games his rookie year, 8 pressures and a sack on a total of 74 pass rushing snaps. Was on the Browns practice squad all of last year. And then this year was on the Bengals practice squad. 6'5", 266, big dude. Last 2 years at Oklahoma had 16 and a half sacks. He's a good football player. He's solid. Is he the answer? Is Isaiah Thomas going to be the next Aiden Hutchinson or even Marcus Davenport? The answer is no. But the Lions need to move here. They need to put bodies on the field. They've lost Kyle Peko to injured reserve. They've lost Barnes to injured reserve. Davenport, Hutchinson, the list goes on and on. And you got to figure Isaac Ukwu will be again elevated from the practice squad this week. Big question is, will James Houston play? How many snaps for Trevor Nowaski playing edge rusher? Will Mitchell Agude, coming off the Lions practice squad, will he be elevated for Sunday? For right now, yes, the Lions are going to go with next man up. All right. And I'm going to give you some names of some guys in minutes. And I mentioned yesterday about Myles Garrett, and certainly everybody's mentioning Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson, but it takes two to tango. It is not easy to try to trade big name players or acquire big name players. Now, today, the Jets finally went out and got Devontae Adams, but the Raiders have been trying to trade Devontae for 2.5, 3 weeks. It's going to take time. I know my buddy Frank keeps texting me, when are we getting Myles Garrett? Slow down. I'm all for calling Andrew Berry, the Browns general manager, about Myles Garrett. But these deals take time. It's going to be maybe a couple of weeks before we see Brad Holmes pull the trigger on something. Now, Hassan Reddick is out there. The Jets now have officially given Hassan Reddick and Drew Rosenhaus, his agent, permission to go seek a trade. Hassan Reddick is a one-trick pony, though. Heck of an edge rusher. Doesn't play the run at all. And does he really fit what Brad Holmes wants? Here's a guy that was begging the Eagles to let him go so he could get a fat contract somewhere else. They trade him to the Jets. The Jets claim they gave him no guarantees he was getting a contract. He says they did say that. Then he just held out. That's not really Brad Holmes' MO to bring in a guy like that to your culture. But it's a possibility. It's an option. The Jets are desperate. He won't play for them. Maybe you can fleece their general manager, Joe Douglas. But Hassan Reddick, like I said before, really does not play the run very well and kind of just rushes the passer, similar to what you have in James Houston. Now, Hassan Reddick is a better player, but I'm just throwing it out there. Lions have a tough game this Sunday. They're 2.5-point underdogs in Minnesota. Yet ESPN says they have a 57% chance of winning. So they're still in good shape. They're still 4-1. The Hutchinson injury, and I know I've said this now for 3 days in a row, it is a killer. It really is. I really thought this team was Super Bowl bound. I really believed they could do it. And I still don't think there's anybody in the NFC better than the Lions right now. I think the Lions are great. But man, you lose Hutchinson, I want to see what this defense is going to look like without him, because it's scary to think about how much time quarterbacks might have now that Aiden Hutchinson is not on that other side. He was everything. So we'll see. All right. I got a couple more names. I got one name that I think the Lions should trade for and should make a call about, but I don't know if the team he's on is ever going to let him go. And it's not for the reasons that you normally would think, like a Myles Garrett or anybody like that. But I'm going to explain that coming up next here on this Monday edition, or Monday, I don't even know what day it is, Tuesday edition of a Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Hey, folks, Locked On Lions is, of course, proudly brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. You can start the NFL season with a big return on FanDuel when you get a hunch in the middle of a game. All right, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Tonight, ALCS Game 2, my Guardians, a little bit of trouble now, down 0-1 to the Yankees, having to face Garrett Cole. Want to put some money down on this one tonight? You can on FanDuel. Plus, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. If you think about putting money down and betting on games, do so, please, with our friends at FanDuel. And we're also proudly brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. Oh my goodness gracious. The most fun way to play daily fantasy sports is on PrizePicks. Over 10 million members, billions of dollars in awarded winnings. They've made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player stat projections for a chance to win up to 100 times your cash with PrizePicks. You run your game all season long on PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money, like I said, with as little as 4 correct picks. All right. It is that easy. Thinking about some games this weekend. What about Justin Jefferson against the Lions? Will he get more than or less than 83.5 yards this week? All right. What do you think? Is it possible? Justin Herbert, passing yards over more than or less than 200 yards for the Chargers. All of that is at your fingertips. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this football season. Here's what you got to do. Download the app today, use the code LOCKEDONNFL, and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. I'm back with you on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions, everybody, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Our very good friend, Ross Tucker, CBS Sports, NFL analyst, Westwood One, Ross Tucker Football Podcast. We love Ross. Ross will be on tomorrow, and we'll have to give him some crap about his tweet two seconds before Hayden Hutchinson's injury. We'll do that with Ross tomorrow. Shout out to my friends at Walsh College. Yes, love my Walsh College cup. I like to rotate the cups and mugs here on Locked On Lions. All right, some more names. All right, everybody's talking about Max Crosby, Myles Garrett. I've seen Zadarius Smith. Not sure he's a culture fit either. They booted him out of Green Bay. But the Browns have already started cleaning house. Amari Cooper was traded today to the Bills for some draft picks. So let's see. Harold Landry is an intriguing name, the edge rusher from the Tennessee Titans. I caught a little bit of the Titans-Colts matchup this past Sunday. Shout out to the Herd for a big win, the boys from Indy. But those two teams aren't very good. Tennessee's terrible, and they're not going anywhere with Will Levis. Could Harold Landry, Titans edge rusher who's got 4 sacks on the year, be a possibility? Let's wait and see on that, but keep that name in mind. Azeez Ojulari of the New York Football Giants. He has his moments when he flashes and you say, wow, Ojulari looks good. Other times, you don't even know he's on the field. He's a guy. Won't cost you all that much. Keep an eye on him. I think he's in the last year of his contract with the Giants. If you watch the Giants on Sunday Night Football, they're bad. He's a name to keep an eye on. Here's one that I think is a long shot, and I got to give credit to Nick Baumgardner from The Athletic. He brought this name up first, and I think there's a possibility, but this is only if the Saints swan dive. Now they've lost. They start off 2-0. Now they're 2-4. If this New Orleans thing continues, if this New Orleans ship continues to sink and take in more water, could you see a scenario where Aaron Glenn, Alex Anzalone, and Dan Campbell are all reunited with their former teammate in New Orleans, Cam Jordan? I know what you're saying. Cameron Jordan's 35 years old, Matt. What are you talking about? He's old. He's old. Cam Jordan can still play. You want to talk about a team captain, a veteran, a guy that is beloved in the locker room, one of the best leaders in the NFL. If you somehow told Dan Campbell that he was acquiring Cam Jordan from the Saints, I think Dan Campbell would go nuts. Still got some mileage on the tires, still got some tread on the tires, still got some gas in the tank. Cam Jordan would be an incredible pickup for the Lions on a lot of different fronts. But again, 35 years old, wouldn't cost that much, but I don't know if he's ever leaving New Orleans. He's spent his entire career there. He's played 14 seasons in New Orleans. He's a legend. And I was texting our buddy Ross Jackson, the host of Locked On Saints, and he's like, I just don't see any way he would leave New Orleans and they would let him go. He's that important. But what if the Saints drop 6 straight and get to 2-6? And what if They could use some draft capital. I think Cameron Jordan would be an awesome pickup. Nobody's replacing Aiden Hutchinson unless you get Myles Garrett, okay? And Max Crosby. And I don't think you're getting either. But Cam Jordan would be exactly what this franchise and locker room would need. He's a special guy. And he's a very good football player. And he still played. Just had an interception this past week against the Bucs for the Saints on a tip play. So it's not like he's chopped liver. I just don't know if there's any way Nollins is going to make that move. I think that would be very, very difficult to do. So we'll see. All right. One thing we've not talked about because we've been dealing with the Aiden Hutchinson injury and all of that. One thing we got to get into is what Ben Johnson has done the last 2 weeks for this Lions offense. First, feasting on the Seahawks on Monday Night Football and Jared Goff having over 150 passer rating. And then this past Sunday, the clinic that Ben put on in the Lions 47-9 drubbing of Jera and the Dallas Cowboys. We got to put some things into perspective here. At the start of the season, the first 3 weeks of the season, let me make sure I get this right. Rams, Bucks, Cardinals, right? All we kept saying, all the fans kept saying, all I kept saying is, what's up with this offense? Why is there not enough balance? Why is Jared Goff throwing the ball 50 times in the loss to the Bucks? Why didn't they score more than 20 points, whatever it was, in Arizona against the Cardinals? Why is Laporta not involved? Why is St. Brown one game involved? The next minute, J-Mo's more involved. These past 2 weeks, we have watched this offense come into their own. And the play calling and how tough the Lions are with this mix of ground and pound physical football and then the creativity that Ben Johnson put on is pretty good. I mean, Penei Sewell on a hook and ladder. Taylor Decker on a tackle eligible. Double reverse, handoff to Montgomery, reverse to St. Brown, flea flicker back to Goff, and the tutty to Sam Laporta streaking down the sideline. The hook and ladder earlier in the year. Was it in Arizona? In Arizona. Ben Johnson's in his bag right now. He's calling great games. And what I love is, and I know some of the players, including Brian Branch, he was interviewed on the field by the Lions' own Danny Rogers the other day. And Danny asked Brian about, do you wish that, a scale of 1 to 10, what about Ben Johnson's play calling? And he's like, 10. I just wish he didn't empty the whole bag today. But the Lions were so upset last year after Dallas. And the minute they found out at the end of last season who their opponents were going to be next year and where the games were going to be played, the Lions wanted to make a statement Sunday. They wanted to go into Dallas and not just beat up on the Cowboys. They wanted to humiliate them. Putting Dan Skipper out wide, constantly having Skipper and Decker reporting as eligible. All of the plays that Ben Johnson ran and just the creativity and everything else. Then the deep shot to J-Mo, the big, even Hendon Hooker comes into the game with like 7 minutes to go. All he's got to do is hand the ball off. That's all he's got to do. He's got Hendon Hooker in a play action pass, roll out right, hitting the tight end for a first down. Ben Johnson, relentless. And he's on our team. He's your offensive coordinator, Lion fans. The last 2 weeks, this team has absolutely waxed Seattle's defense and terrorized Dallas's. And I know the Dallas Cowboys are without Micah and Lawrence and all those guys. I get it. But you put up 47 points in Dallas. You didn't just win. You clowned on them. You punked them. And so Ben Johnson right now is in a really good rhythm. And this offense is starting to pick it up. And so maybe, just maybe Sunday in Minnesota. And I'm just as a maybe. All right. Maybe, just maybe this offense is so good and so creative that the Aiden Hutchinson loss won't be as big of a deal. Because the Vikings, and give the Vikings and Brian Flores credit, their defense has been fantastic. They are healthy. They're rested. They're off a bye. But I like the Lions' chances in any game the rest of the year because of what they're doing offensively and how good of a job Johnson does in mixing in the play calls, giving Jared Goff an opportunity to freelance a little bit, and there's good synergy there. And Goff has had 2 of his best games as a Lion back to back the last 2 weeks. So you love to see it. You absolutely love to see it. All right, coming up next, we have a call of the day. It is back. We will get into that here on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions. We're here to tell you about the Gametime app, best ticket app out there. You want to go down to the Wings or the Pistons, Michigan or Michigan State, get your tickets for all events, concerts, and shows, not just sports, on Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite team play live even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff, show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I told you last week, I went to Guardians Tigers ALDS Game 3. I got my tickets on the Gametime app, set up in 323 there at Comerica Park with my brother. And while our team lost, it was still great to be up there. View from your seat was exactly what I expected. And you got that lowest price guarantee. Or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Oh, you know, it's game time. All right, folks, we are with you on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions. Don't forget the Thursday crossover this week as we talk Locked On Lions and Locked On Vikings for a big game on Sunday with Luke Braun, the host of the Locked On Vikings podcast. All right, call of the day is back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do the business here. Always appreciate everybody chiming in at speakpipe.com/dairy podcast page. Alex checks in today, one of our everydayers, with his submission, and then we will react to it here on Locked On Lions. It is our call of the day.
Hi, Matt. This is Alex from Sparta, Michigan. Longtime everydayer. I just want to touch base with you in regards to the Aiden Hutchinson injury. Do you really think the Lions have the salary cap to go out and make a splash before the trade deadline, especially with us having all these big names coming up for new contracts, and with us especially re-signing David Montgomery with that, because I know we have Hutch coming up, we have J-Mo and whatnot. So would we really have the salary cap? And if we do have the salary cap, who do you think would be a good pick for the Lions to pick up? Thanks, Matt.
All right, thank you, Alex from Sparta, Michigan, for chiming in as our call of the day today. All right, if you go to overthecap.com, and I am no cap expert. We used to always have Brad Spielberger from PFF on. Brad's moved on, is working for the Carolina Panthers now, but Over the Cap right now states that the Lions have about $28 million under the cap. So, yes, if they wanted to, let's say, Alex, they wanted to trade for Myles Garrett, who makes about $20 million this year. The contract would be what, 15, 16 for the rest of the year. They could fit him under the cap. Here's the thing that Brad Holmes and a lot of general managers, though, like to do. They like to be under the cap for big emergencies. Now, this is a pretty big emergency. The Lions need a defensive they need an edge. But if there's a bevy of injuries, you need to fill out the roster. You've got to have money to do that, right? Especially a Lions team that is trying to compete for a Super Bowl. But yes, could they afford, the Max Crosby thing would be interesting. How much money would the Lions have to pay? How much money would they want the Raiders maybe to pay the rest of the salary? Crosby's making closer to 27 million. Garrett's around 20. Like I said, so 16 for the rest of the year. But there's room. The Lions have room to make a deal like this. And I gave you some names earlier. I don't know if it's about money. Sometimes it's about money. Sometimes it's about two to tango and the fit for the trade. Look, the Lions don't have a 4th round pick. because, of course, they traded it last year to move up to get Manu, the draft pick. So if teams are saying, I need a number 4, or we got to do some sort of pick swap, like in 2026, 2025, whatever it is, the Lions have to be aggressive, but also they don't have a 4th round pick. So if teams are demanding a 4 and you don't have one, that's not going to happen. As part of a package is what I'm trying to say. But yes, the Lions right now, according to overthecap.com, sit at around 28 million under the cap. So there is room and space to bring in a player. So that is certainly a possibility. I just don't know if Brad Holmes is going to trade for a really, really big name. I just don't know. I could tell you some of the names, like I said before, Hassan Reddick's been out there for months. How come Brad didn't pull the trigger on Reddick when he said he wanted out of New York? Maybe Brad thinks he's a jerk. Maybe Brad doesn't want to bring that into the culture of the clubhouse and the locker room. So we'll see. I've got some time. We're 3 weeks away from the trade deadlines. 3 weeks from today. All right, that'll do it for our Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions. Ross Tucker tomorrow, Luke Braun on Thursday. Thanks for making us your first listen, everybody. Checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. And we are back again tomorrow.